One small step for man, one giant leap for Moffat. Does he succeed? Hello, my fellow Whovians, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I go into Doctor Who Series 6. Woohoo! Yay! Cheering! Where I review the first story, which is actually a two-part story, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, written by Stephen Moffat, starring Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. So, we begin Matt Smith's second series as the 11th Doctor with Series 6. Wow. I've not seen this one for a while, and this is actually the 214th Doctor Who story overall. So yeah, with Series 6, they decided to change the format of how the episodes were going to be broadcast, because during this year, Doctor Who was split. Like, the Series 6 structure, it was split in two halves. So half the series aired in the first half of the year, and then in the second half of the year, around the autumn, we got the second half of the series. So it was a really different structure. I imagine this is mostly because Moffat was also juggling the show Sherlock as well, so he was trying to do two at once. And well, yes, we'll see how much the splitting the series in half affects the show, certainly as well when we go into Series 7. So anyway, the plot of The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon is as follows. Amy Pond, Rory Williams, River Song, and the 11th Doctor receive a mysterious summons that takes them on an adventure to 21st century Utah and Florida in 1969. Along the way, they meet Richard Nixon, President of the United States of America, and former FBI agent Canton Everett Delaware III. And from there, the gang have to work together to battle the creatures known as the Silence, who are basically these aliens that when you see them, they're very terrifying, and then when you look away from them, you don't remember them. Yeah, and there are a lot of shocking revelations in this story. So yeah, The Impossible Astronaut and the Day of the Moon. Is this a good opener to Series 6? I don't know, like, I always quite liked this story when I first saw it, because I liked the ideas of it, and I still do. I think the setting of the story is what really attracts me to it. The idea of setting it in, you know, Utah, Florida, in America, and around the time of the Apollo missions. I think that is really appealing about the story, and it's really interesting. This story feels kind of cinematic in that regard. It kind of feels like a bigger scale, and the Doctor Who team went all out, and yeah, the locations are excellent for this story. I mean, look at it. I mean, when Rory is over the walls on Arizona, I don't know if it's the actual one or whether they just recreated it, but it still looks pretty cool. And I do think the performances are really good. Matt Smith as the Doctor is really good, and I think Matt Smith, like I said in my Christmas Carol review, he's really comfortable with this part now, and he's found his niche, so to speak. Karen Gillan as Amy Pond is very good. Same with Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams. And of course, Alex Kingston returns as River Song. Yeah, River Song is much more flirty now. There seems to be much more of a kind of flirtatious banter going on with her and the Doctor. You'll have to bear with me in this review because there is a lot that happens in this story. The first of which, I mean, Amy and Rory, their relationship is kind of threatened because Rory is under the impression that Amy might have feelings for the Doctor. And she tells the Doctor that she is pregnant before she tells Rory. And Amy never actually apologizes for that. She never apologizes for not telling Rory that to begin with. And he listens with the little red recorder. And moreover, I just don't like the idea that they suggest at the end of the story how Amy's baby, the conception of Amy's baby. I think what they're trying to say in a subtle way is that Moffat is trying to imply that Amy and the Doctor could have had some sexual intercourse, which is just disgusting. He's an alien. He's a 900-year-old Time Lord. It's ridiculous. I know they're not actually saying that, you know, specifically, but there is every implication that we could think that. But she says something like, oh, I didn't tell him because I don't want the baby to have some kind of time head or something. I don't want it to be, yeah, I don't want it to be like Alien. I mean, of course, the truth is, you know, it is Amy and Rory's child, you know, that will be born. But of course, it's very confusing for us to think, what the fuck? You know, it's very misleading. And I know that Moffat maybe was trying to do this to create some tension with the characters and to keep some of the mysteries of the series going, but it's just a really random, and you know, what is it with the sexual references, man? Like the Moffat has this tendency to have these little sexual innuendos and references in the show. I don't know why. The very beginning of the story opens with these people looking for the Doctor, and we come across like a painting of the Doctor wearing no clothes, having his private regions covered, and then he's underneath the skirt of this beautiful woman from, I don't know, what, like the Tudor times or something. And he's like, this isn't really as bad as it looks. And we know that Matt Smith is not wearing any clothes, or it doesn't seem to be that way anyway, underneath the girl's skirt. I mean, and it has no context to the story whatsoever, so I don't know why they opened with that. It's just really stupid. For me, whilst there are great ideas in the story, I do feel like the story itself is kind of overcomplicated in a lot of areas. I actually quite like the first part of the story, apart from that opening scene. And I realise maybe a lot of this was probably done for shock value, but the first 10 minutes, when the Doctor was killed, when I first saw that, I flipped my shit. I mean, of course, I knew that there had to have been a way for the Doctor to reappear in the story, and for that not to have been true. But it was just shocking. I mean, it was well done. I thought the scene was very well done. He sees this astronaut in the Lake Silencio, as we call it, and he goes over to it, and then we just see him get shot. We don't see what the conversation is. We will do when the series ends. The Doctor is killed before regeneration, which is very shocking. I mean, it's really quite powerful, actually. And then when they have to burn his body in the boat on the lake, and they meet this guy called Canton Everett Delaware III, who's an old man, but he says, oh, I've seen you before, but you will see me. And they've all got these letters which the Doctor had sent them. Because that's one of the twists, is that the Doctor invited all of them to watch his death, and he also invited himself to watch his death. It's an interesting idea, and obviously it plants a bit of a mystery there for the series to resolve later on. Whether it does resolve it later on, well, we'll see. But I do feel like a lot of that was done for shock value, and same with the opening of Day of the Moon. The opening of Day of the Moon doesn't really make much sense to me. I don't know, why do they have to go through this elaborate opening sequence of getting them all into that room, you know, pretending to kill, you know, Amy, Rory, and River, and then the Doctor and Canton being taken into that prison room, and then having the body bags there. You know, why did they have to pretend to die to get in there? Why couldn't they just go in there? Why couldn't the Doctor just get them in there? Like, I don't understand, you know, why did they have to go through that elaborate sequence of having, you know, yeah, Amy was shot by Canton, seemingly. Rory was shot on top of the wall. River Song dives off the edge of a building into the swimming pool. It's just very confusing to me. And also the markings on the arms and everything. What does that mean? That was never explained. Is that like how many times they've seen these creatures or whatever? I don't understand. That was never explained either. And also the silence. I really like the silence in terms of the concept of them. The design is, you know, it's kind of basic. I mean, they are okay to look at. They could have had a more, you know, intuitive design, but they look all right. The thing is with the silence, it's a great concept. You know, you look at them, you're terrified. When you look away, you can't remember them. But in a way, that's almost the biggest compliment, but also the biggest drawback. Because at the beginning of Day of the Moon, when the Doctor has these nano recorders and everything, it's like, how can he actually know to do that if he's forgotten what they're fighting? They look at them and then they turn around, nothing's there. And then there's a scene in the TARDIS. It's like, oh, well, we've got to fight these creatures. You know, if in order to remember them, you need to put these nano things in your hands. And I mean, he doesn't say exactly that, but it just got really confusing. I didn't quite understand how the Doctor and Canton and River and Amy and Rory remembered that they had to fight something. Because as far as I was concerned, they couldn't remember anything was there. So how did they know there was something to fight? Obviously, recording the creatures when they were there makes sense, but in terms of actually the first time remembering them, it just really doesn't make sense. So that the story in part 2 gets itself tied up in so many knots. It's a little bit convoluted in certain areas. And certainly the mystery surrounding the girl in the astronaut suit is interesting. Although at the very end of the story, we find out she regenerates. So she has some kind of Time Lord DNA or time energy inside her, which is, again, it's yet to be resolved. I mean, not everything in this story is explained for the purpose of the series arc to wrap it up. Yeah, there are times when it is hard to keep up with this story, and you do have to really pay attention because it is very complicated. I do like the scenes in the orphanage when Amy and Canton go to find the girl, and Amy does find the girl in the astronaut suit, and yeah, that's a pretty scary sequence. I like the sort of the lighting and everything there. The script by Moffat, again, I don't know what it is with Stephen Moffat. Like, always the first parts seem to be better than the second parts. I mean, at least with the Series 5 finale, the Pandorica opens and the Big Bang, at least it flowed very well together, and it actually, it was wrapped up in a coherent fashion. The second part of this story, it doesn't all flow together. Nothing connects very well, and certain things don't really make sense in this story. I struggle to comprehend a few things. But I did enjoy the final action sequence when the Doctor transmits the video of the silence across the television. That was good. That was really good. And then Rivers turning around and shooting all the silence. That was a good moment right there. And visually, I think the story is really good. I think the locations are great, and Murray Gold's music is also very good. Just it's somewhere different for the story to be set, and I really appreciate that. And I like the moment when the Doctor's wearing his Stetson and then River just shoots it off. That's nice. I mean, there's certainly a sort of cinematic feel about the story, which I like. It's just the story itself, it does get a bit muddled. Stuart Milligan as President Nixon, you know, he's very good, and he's a nice addition to the story. I mean, well, the less said about the real Nixon, the better, but it's nice that they included him in this story. And I do like the voices of the silence. I think the voices do really work, and they are quite scary. They do have their own scary aspect to them. I just wish the design was a bit more inventive. I also really like the scene when Amy's in the toilets, and then there's the other woman that comes in, and she keeps forgetting the silence there, and then they actually kill her. They electrocute her with their Sith powers or something. But anyway, yeah, this story's a very mixed bag for me. I think the first part is a bit stronger than the second part. The mystery that is set up is really intriguing, and it's shocking in a lot of areas. And the twists and turns are quite good. Also, there's a little cameo of Madame Kavarian, who will appear more in Series 6. Really all over the place in a lot of areas of the story. Some of the story beats don't make a huge amount of sense, and I do struggle to follow it in part 2, especially. But it's not the worst story of this series, and it's not the best either. It's under average. So I'm gonna give The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I give it a pass because I like some of the ideas in it, and I think it looks cinematic and some, you know, intriguing moments. But I can't deny it is kind of hard to follow in places. So anyway, thank you very much all for watching this review. What do you think of this story? Please comment down below, let me know. Please hit that subscribe button for more content, and stay tuned next time when I review The Curse of the Black Spot. So until then, I'm Mr. TARDIS 11. See ya. Bye for now.